All right. Good afternoon. Oh, not even afternoon. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. As always, my name is Jalen Vasquez. I'm community manager and events coordinator for Freelancers Hub. We're very happy to have a little bit of a chilled night tonight. Tonight's going to be a fireside chat with the Grindhouse Radio. So you know these guys. We've had them do events with us the past couple of months. And we got more coming in the future. So we just want to ease down a little bit for today's event. Just kind of talk to them, ask questions of pretty much everything about the industry of podcasting, marketing, business, since they all have different backgrounds and different ranges within their own business and their own industries, a little bit of the entertainment industry as well. We do have submitted questions from members from signups. I have a couple questions as well that I plan to ask tonight. This event is being recorded and will be sent out later tonight. And I think we're going to put this on YouTube as well, because we always have a good time with these guys, and we're very happy to have them with us. So with us tonight is Grindhouse Radio. It is Brimstone, Kim Dragna, and Mr. Tom Greer. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
First and foremost, I want to know where my s'mores are at, because you told me this was a fireside chat, and I don't have any chocolate, and I don't have any graham crackers, and I sure as hell don't have any marshmallows up in here. And I'm getting very upset right now, Jalen. It is in my contract.
I don't hear any
crackers for any fireside chats.
Oh, so something that I think I found is incredible. So I was at a barbecue for a family's last week or the week before, and at my uncle's, they have like a small fire pit, not a pit, but like a small vase that you can have a live fire. And my cousin was making s'mores, so all I see is just has the marshmallow. He's toasting it, puts on the graham cracker. I'm like, wait, where's the chocolate? He's like, oh, the chocolate's in the marshmallow. What?
Oh, I've seen those. Those look pretty cool.
I've seen them.
I was like, what is this black magic?
Is that? That's like sacrilegious.
Sacrilegious from the guy that eats the peanut butter and jelly in one jar. Like that.
Listen, okay, that is to save time and reduce the effort that goes into making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Okay, there, Mr. Greer. The marshmallow and chocolate have to be separate, okay? Going in the same time. How do you do the marshmallow chocolate ratio properly? How do you make sure that the chocolate is definitely and definitively melted within that marshmallow?
You know what I like to do? I like to switch it up too. Sometimes I'm like, maybe I don't want the traditional Hershey's. Maybe I want like some Reese's Pieces. Maybe I want some Snickers. Maybe I want some Twix or something. Doesn't always have to be the OG. You can do whatever you want.
I don't know how you put Reese's Pieces on; they'll fall off. They'll roll up. It's M&Ms on.
It's the same.
No, that's Reese's peanut butter cup. Reese's
cups. You put the whole cup.
Small guys. Those are the small little M&M looking.
Oh, you put the whole cup. That's what I meant. Oh, come on, Brim.
Well, no, I wasn't sure. I thought you were
imagine sprinkling it on.
That's that was E.T.'s favorite candy. E.T. wants Reese's Pieces. Remember that? Anyway. So here we are. Are we waiting for anybody else to come in, or is this it for now? We have a small crew tonight.
I'd say this is it for now. We can just get started. People can watch the recording, and like I said, we'll probably stick this on YouTube so people can see the wonderful people that you guys are, great things that you do. A lot of the questions that we have kind of cover a little bit of everything we've had in the past and a little bit more. So
sweet.
Let's do it.
Cool. So my first question for you guys is, how'd you get started with the Grindhouse Radio? Whose idea was it to start? And while setting things throughout the years doing it, how'd you figure out the different segments that you have on the show? Is it a lot of trial and error, or you're just like, let's do this and this is gonna work?
So GHR, originally, look, the GHR that it is now and the way it became, eventually is a mixture of everybody. But the original idea, for doing a program, I had wanted to do something to start coming and staying closer to home because I was away all the time. And now it's like a caged animal. I want to get the hell out. Back then I was on tour all the time and I was trying to think of reasons to stay home. And I tried to touch base with a bunch of different radio stations in the area, all that I had connections with and relationships with. And I kept saying, hey, I have an idea. And every single one of them, it's like crickets. It was ridiculous. So I've always been the guy to say, okay, let's just do it on our own. Let's just make it happen, DIY. DIY.
Yeah,
Do it yourself.
DIY.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been a long day. What do you call it? And so I started looking into like other, platforms. And I saw like internet radio, which was interesting at the time, but the people that I was talking to were quite shady, and I wasn't feeling it. I had bought the IP. I had thought of, the Grindhouse Radio because it's the house of grind. Everything that I always do kind of ties into one another, and that was the idea behind it. But I had to put it on the shelf because I couldn't figure out where I was going to do it, or how the show was even going to be until Kim walked into my life. I got Kim and somebody else who used to be on the show, and what do you call it? They came in straight from school. Kim had a very big background with radio. She helped them build the station at her college, Farmingdale State College, and you built it. You built it from scratch, right, Kim? Or did you guys just bring it back to life? I don't remember.
Well, they had it years ago, but for I think like 6 years prior to me even starting it back up, or it was pretty much from scratch again. But yeah, no, started it from scratch with a group of people and the school itself, and we were like researching and figuring out what to do. So I'm glad to hear that it's still running strong. But yeah, no, started it, founded it, all that.
Mm-hmm.
So Kim and the other gentleman who was with us prior, they came in to intern because they needed some college credits, and I guess they got stuck with me. And what do you call it? In the office, we had such great banter, and we'd always act foolish, and there's a lot of jackassery going around. And I asked Kim and the other guy. I said, hey, would you guys be interested in maybe trying to do a show? And what do you call? I said, I had an idea and I would love to do it. And after some contemplating, everybody was like, yeah, let's do it. And we sat down behind the microphone in the office, which was right on a main road. Okay, so you can hear the cars whizzing by outside. It's on one of the big main roads. We had this one mic that was in the center of an echoey room. Cars driving by, and the three of us just sitting around this laptop, and we started, and an hour later we stopped and we go, we've got something. And then Kim and the other gentleman were very what do you call it? They're the ones who basically said, we should go podcast with this because podcasting is a big medium, and I was very familiar with podcasting because I've always been warm to podcasts and have dealt with podcasters for years before it was popular. So I was like, all right, that sounds like an interesting idea. And it's probably one of the best, decisions that we ever made is to start off, and get moving on podcast. Now, that didn't mean that we didn't go elsewhere. We were on Kim. I mean, when we started, we were already on like 15, 20 different networks. And then some of them switched out over time. But we were on a bunch of the college AM, FM radios, radio. We were on some internet radio, some streaming, radio, and then on some of the big guys. But what do you call it? We wound up taking it out of our office space, and we went into Connecticut School of Broadcasting, which is where the other gentleman was working, and he had gone to school. And what do you call it? Basically, what happened was we got the call from iHeart. And we worked out a deal, and we got the 2 hours on iHeart weekly, because that was when they actually had to bring you on. It wasn't like, okay, I press a button and all of a sudden you appear. You actually had to be doing something to be on iHeart. So we wound up doing that out of a recommendation from another show that we've been friendly with. And that's also where we got Tom. And Tom started off with us at Connecticut School of Broadcasting because he'd gone there. And it was a blessing there as well because without Tom, I mean, we wouldn't still be going today. So there's a reason for everything, and people come in and out of projects and lives for a reason, and we all found each other, and I'm super proud of everything we've accomplished, and I'm super proud of the fact that we are a family, and now Tom and Kim are a couple, from all this,
if you didn't know that.
If you didn't know that, so it actually brought them together. So we're all about our family, us all together, and it's we wouldn't do it any other way. And I know that the segment thing was the second part of your question. The reason why we did the segments when we went to a 2-hour show was that we wanted to have it one in a quote unquote radio broadcast type of situation where format, which is where it was kind of segmented because people's attention spans are short. So what do you call it? We wanted to try to figure out a way to keep people's attention over a longer period of time. So our 15-minute segments are our main segments where the main hosts we would do our thing, and then we would have our commercial time and our mini segments. And the mini segments, are everything from comic books because we want to talk about everything pop culture. So comic books, video games. Now we do women's. I'm sorry, Tom does sports. We do women's encouragement. With leading ladies. We do music. Kim and I do the the foodie thing. So we broke it up so this way it's not the monotonous 2 hours of people just talking and talking and talking and talking. It breaks up the monotony of the same voices, and it actually has worked out very, very well. A matter of fact, when we were in cahoots with Google for a while, and that was one of the things that brought Google to us, is that our format fit what they were looking to do, and it was easily consumable content. So Tom and Ken could probably give you a little more information because Tom was very, very essential in breaking up the stuff for Google.
Yeah, I hate Google. I hate Google so much. But no, yeah, it was it was a lot of work, and we made it work. It was cool that they acknowledged our format and thought it was really cool and thought it worked with them. It would have been cooler if that project went a little further than it did, but
Agreed.
Things happen. New projects come, old projects go.
Yeah.
It was a very interesting situation, and we were in bed with them for about a year, and had it gone off the way it was supposed to go off, it would have been a very, very big thing. But the thing is things don't always happen the way you want them to happen, and but at least you got to play the game. You know what I mean? You don't always win the game, but at least you got to play. So you got to take it as a win. I hope I answered and we answered your question.
Yeah, you guys definitely did. So on your show, you guys have a lot of great guests, from voice actors, from cartoons, video games, pretty much a lot of people in my childhood, a lot of Power Rangers, which is how we got connected through each other, wrestlers. How do you approach potential guests to be on your show? Like, do you have to incentivize them, or especially if it's new people who may not know who you are at first, or they have some idea, but they don't fully know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for us now, it's different. When we first started out, I mean, Brim kind of knew a bunch of people to help us kickstart everything. Some of his industry friends who now have been on the show even now since years later and whatnot. But a lot of people, you message on Instagram, if you find email, you could do that. There's a lot of now more so social media sites like podmatch.com. There's polywork.com. There's guests.io. There's podcastguests.com. So there's a lot of avenues now where you could find people where they make their own little page and their bio and what they, are on. And you could pick, if you're a specific kind of show, what kind of guests you want on. So it kind of makes it a little bit easier to find guests that way. But I mean, when we first started, like I said, it was a combination of Brim when he first got everyone. Now still, if we ever go to conventions and we chat with people and we're there for the weekend or for the day, we're signing with them. We say, hey, this is who we are, podcast show. Some of your friends have actually been on, or, we've never had, you and from your show. Would you like to come on? And pretty much for the most part, they come on now. Another thing is, if you decide to go the route of the IMDb Pro route, you may be able to get some of the agents and what. But But if you're going to do that, whether you're messaging on social media or email, have something nice and concise and professional, because you're going to be sending to these people who may have more than one person within the industry. So, I mean, that's kind of a little bit of what we started with, but I do recommend trying podmatch.com, like I said, polywork.com, guest.io.com, or podcastguest.com. Some are very different from others, just depends what you like. But yeah, use the power of will of social media. That's kind of a bit of what we've done.
Yeah, the Guestio, there are more bigger names on it, or at least, if you're looking for this to go the celebrity route, there are more celebrities and, bigger names. The Podmatch stuff and things like that, you're going to get more like some professionals, some not. You're going to get some CEOs, and so forth. You're not getting too many celebs on there. But again, it depends on what route you're going. The best way, if you're looking for, any kind of celebrity response, is to, reach out to agents, managers, and stuff like that. It's the respectful way.
Like
there's a whole, what was that?
Like IMDb Pro.
Yeah, you could do IMDb Pro. I have on my blog, I know, Jalen, I think you should have a link for it, on how to secure some, solid guests. It helps to know people. I've been in the industry for 40 plus years, so I have a very big Rolodex. So that helped us out tremendously. At the beginning, just to get drops. We didn't even have a show yet, and I had drops, station IDs from Stan Lee, Michelle Nichols, a whole bunch of other people, Steve Cardenas, Bumblefoot from Guns N' Roses. So we had a nice amount of people just because my name was attached to it. That doesn't discount what everybody else does with the show. It's just, it sometimes it's who you know. So they helped give us a really solid start. But here's the thing is if our banter wasn't good, if our on-air conversations were not good, doesn't matter who's on the show, it's not going to help it. You know what I mean? Nobody's going to care. So I think what really makes the show is not necessarily the guests, even though it's great having them on, and yes, it does play a major role in what Grindhouse is, but it's the unit of characters in the cast of the show, who really make what Grindhouse is. And that goes for any, of your shows. You know what I mean? Getting a guest is great. It helps fill time. It helps maybe give a little bit of wisdom to the people that are listening, a different take, a different view. But don't discount the power of yourselves either. We always will always have a guest, and then we're okay not having a guest. You know what I mean? We just did a no guest show this past week.
Case in point was back when we first started doing guests in the infancy. We used to have like 3 guests on at a clip on a show.
Yeah.
And it was me, when, me, one of our older hosts that Brim had mentioned before, we were doing the show and we would edit them. And I'd be like, guys, we can't have 3 guests because they're just bogarting all this time and they don't have time to hear our personalities. Like, why are we doing 3 interviews? Yeah. Nobody's going to care about us. They're just going to care about all of these people. And then when we don't have guests, nobody's going to care because nobody's going to know who we really are. You know what I mean? So,
and he was absolutely right.
The names should absolutely draw people in, and they should bring people in from other avenues that would have never seen you. But if you focus so much on getting a guest and not building your own personality behind a microphone, it's just not going to work out.
Yeah, right. That's number one first. People are coming to see you first before any guest. The guest is a little treat, and it's great whomever you could have on and shed some light, and whether it's similar views of you or different, whatever it is, or just a fun guest, whatever it is. But they're coming to see you first and foremost. And then secondary is the little treat is the guest. So they have to like you. And like we said, this past week, we didn't have a guest, but we've been doing this for a couple years now. And even if you weren't, it's something you have to learn to hold your own. And once you do get the guest, it is a treat. And there are a lot of podcasts out there that aren't guest based. They're just co-host based. It could be, us three in this room and we are not guest based. It's the same thing. It's the same process. These people have to enjoy your content and your show and your personalities. That's why they come back every single week. So that's—
You're being so coy, Kim. You said a couple of years. We've been doing this for 7 years. We've been in this for 7 years. It hasn't been a couple of years. We've been doing this a long time.
Been around different hands now. But yeah, so they have to like you first. And if you do decide to go a guest route, which you don't have to, that is a treat. And whoever you do find, like we said, there's the different avenues, like the ones we mentioned, or just simply, have a nice little one-sheeter of who you are, what your background is or anything, and find the emails or find the businesses that you're interested in and, email them direct, professionally, of course. And, hopefully that brings on some traction for you.
One-sheeter is very, very important. Just basically it's all the basics, giving them, the name of the show, what it's about, what, where people can find it, what the demographics are, and social media. Very simple, very easily readable. It's very similar to an EPK, which is an electronic press kit. And everybody should have those as well for yourself personally and for your show. So, Kim, Tom, myself, and the Grindhouse Radio as a whole all have EPKs individually. And if you need an example of it, I'm sure we can pull it up for you on the screen. Or Jalen, if you need, I can give you the password to my back end. You can pull it up. I just don't know how to put it on the screen here. Otherwise, I would.
I think I have. I could find it in here.
Yeah.
I'll show you.
It's cool. I mean, it's a lot of great points. One thing that I'm a little bit curious for, so I do know that some, whether it's either like celebrities or professionals, some do have like a speaker's fee that you do have to pay them, especially if you're just starting out, you may not have that. Are there other ways you can incentivize them just to say like as a thank you, just so they feel like that their time's not just going completely unpaid for or anything like that?
Most people do not get paid to go on shows. And, and I think, I've never charged to go onto a show. And I've been out in this industry for a very long time. Everybody I know, there's not one person that I know that is charged to go out and do an interview. Again, it comes down to who you are. If you're going on any of these, websites like the Guestio and stuff like that, they're doing it, like an incentive, like, well, you should be paid for this time. Yes, you know what I mean? I understand that from an entertainer's point of view. I should be paid for my time. I get it. But at the end of the day, you're providing me with the service as well. So, so you should never be charging me to come on, and I should never be charging, you to come on. You know what I'm saying? There's two ways to look at, everything.
Yeah.
Now, especially if you're doing a call-in, you know what I mean? Now, if you want somebody to come into your studio and you have that all set up and you want it all filmed and blah, 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 then you might have, something that you're going to have to put out, unless you know them. We've had many people in the studio, Robert Davi, DMC, you know what I mean? Like the list goes on, Steve Cardenas, the list goes on, and not one of them would have even thought of asking for a dime from us, I mean, given their friends, but you know what I mean? It doesn't make a difference. They wouldn't charge somebody else either. It just depends on whether they want to do that show or not. So the incentive that you want to give them for doing the show is to have a nicely put together one-sheeter that says, hey, you know what I mean? Like, this is what I'm all about. This is my listenership. If you have 20 people, then, be honest, put on 20 people, I guess. You know what I mean? But like, don't say you're the biggest thing since sliced bread and, and nobody's heard your name. Also, don't sleep on branding. Branding is huge, because you could have a show that nobody listens to, but they know the name. Everybody knows the name of it. You know what I mean? And that's huge as well. Branding is huge. So you know, it all works. You know, with Grindhouse, we have a listenership, we have great branding. You know, people know the name. So that's what we have with us. So when somebody is interested in potentially coming on a show, or if we say, hey, we want XYZ to come on a show, and we reach out, you know, it's easily accessible. One, our websites are there. Two, IMDb is up. Three, you could do a Google search and find things. Four, what do you call it? We have a ton of media on us. So it's easier for us at this point, even if I wasn't hadn't been in the industry for a long time. You know what I'm saying? Like it's for us at this point, we've proven ourselves. We've won awards. We've been the best of this. We've done this. Kim and I have been in you know, top, you know, 40 under 40, 20 under 20, whatever, 30 under 30 rather, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, so stuff like that all adds to the allure of somebody wanting to come and be a guest on the show, you know? So no, you should never have to pay anybody to come on the show. If they want to be paid and you feel like doing some kind of a payment, that's up to you. You can offer a payment. Of course, people would surely jump at a shot to be paid. But you know, at the end of the day, you're providing a service to them. You're allowing your listeners to hear them. You shouldn't be, you know, paying anything.
That's good to know. That's very good to know. Cool. All right. So the next question for you guys is, what is your typical week look like when you record an episode? How do you coordinate with, especially the other hosts for the mini segments, and then everything that you guys do?
So you, Greer.
Well, you know, we so I guess week, you know, we'll get together on Mondays, record the show. It's about 2 hours, obviously. Brim does what he does usually to get our guests to come in, or, you know, Kim will have people come in from time to time to come do the show. Usually I'll have them from anywhere. You know, our people that run our mini segments, they all got my email, so they'll send it to me throughout the week. Like I said, our show goes up on Thursday, so I get my segments sent to me. Actually, I'm going to say probably my favorite person of our mini segments, they're all great. They all do phenomenal content. They all sound awesome, is Rob Medina, who does our comic segment, because that is in my, that segment is in my mailbox before we even do GHR. And it is the greatest feeling in the entire world, because as much as I love everybody, I don't like having to rely on outside forces. Yeah, I don't like have to chase it. I don't want to have to chase after anybody. So it's, you know, recording the show on Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday basically is just down to editing it, making sure it all sounds good, getting everybody's side segments, putting it all together. And then Thursdays, the one last comb through and put it up for upload. You know, I think the longest it takes, it shouldn't take that long, to be quite honest with you. It's just getting everything together in one file at one time. Just that just takes, you know, that just takes some time, because, you know, our mini segments, those guys got their schedules, they got their lives, you know what I mean? They got to do their jobs, they got to do their thing. So whenever they can get it to me, they get it to me. So that's probably what holds up GHR the most, but it gets out on time. That's really all that matters. It gets out on time.
And every so often, Tom will call either myself or he'll yell to Kim that we need to like pickups quick on like a Wednesday night. So
oh my God, segment freaking worst. That is the worst. That's the only thing that bothers me is when I'm sitting there on Wednesday and I'm like, hey, is this segment coming? It's like, oh, I guess not. And then I have to wait and have Kim or Brim do it, or I have to do it. And it's like, you couldn't tell me on Tuesday. We couldn't get this handled before the show has to go up. But nah, you know, it happens. Life happens.
But it's very different in terms of how people do shows. Like, that's just how we run. You know, there are a lot of people who could record on a Monday. They want to edit it that night, and they know that Tuesday it's being uploaded. It just depends on your time and how much you have and whatnot. Like our show's 2 hours because it's 2 hours. You know, we have advertisers in between, sponsors. You know, we have the mini segments in between. We have our guests, and then we have us. So, you know, that long form content that we have just works for us. For other people, it doesn't work. That, you know, it may not work for you.
Yeah, make it easy. Make the process as easy as possible on yourself. Exactly is what I would recommend.
So, you know, your editing could may not be as long as we do. It's just us waiting on different people and whatnot. It could be uploaded by Tuesday for all we have. But yeah.
Also, at this part this point in our career in terms of the show and the business in general, we're endorsed by different companies. We have all of our equipment, so it is a lot. I'm not saying that it's easy, but I don't want Tom to take it the wrong way. He'll shoot me. What do you call it? But it makes his job a little easier, because he doesn't have to, like what we used to do back in the day. They have to listen, make sure all the levels were okay, and sometimes somebody would be completely out of. Now it's so systemized where as long as you're talking into the microphone, you're getting a nice clean sound. You hear the two of them, they're in studio right now. They sound crisp and clean as a whistle. I'm on one of my travel microphones in a room that doesn't have anything in it. So you know what I mean? You can hear the difference. Quality
wise, we don't miss a beat. Sometimes you still got to check the levels because things come in a little differently. So no, that never goes away. And especially when you've been doing it for as long as we've been doing it, that thought of having to check the levels will never in a million years go away. You'll always have to check. Yeah. Always check. Please, if you take anything from this, if you're editing your own podcast, always check your levels, because I can't tell you how many times back in the day I would go back and listen to shows, and when we used to do it the old way. So in case, just I guess to peel back the curtain, the old way we used to do our shows was me and our other host would split the show right down the middle. I would take some segments and breaks. He would take some segments and breaks. And don't do that, because what ends up happening is you have two people doing two different things, and then the sounds don't match up, and then it just sounds like the show be going level, and then all of a sudden the back end comes and everything's down. You can't hear anything, So I would always say just check your levels and make the process as easy as possible for you. The equipment that we got in here has made life so much easier, and that's why I tell you the only thing that keeps me up at night is having to make sure that all the mini segments get sent to me on time. That's literally the only thing that at this point, that's literally the only thing that keeps me up.
What editing software do you guys use, and do you have other recommendations for anyone starting out? And then if you could just briefly talk about some of the equipment that you guys use, like microphones and headphones and things like that.
Yeah, we use Ableton. And I was very much against it in the beginning just because it was something new, and I hate having to learn new audio software. When I learned from CSB, I learned on Adobe Audition. Ableton, it's expensive. I know it's a little expensive to get licenses. I don't remember how much it is off the top of my head right now. I'm pretty sure we have it in our 101.
It's around, I think the number changed a bit. It's roughly around 450-400-ish.
Yeah, so it's that you get 3 licenses. You can use it on 3 different computers. You get it infinitely. It's going to continuously update. It's the best, and it's got a bunch of stuff that you could use it on the back end. That's what we use. The other one that's very user friendly is Adobe Audition. Now the problem with that one is you're going to either have to buy the Adobe Creative Suite, or you could pay for one program for like $20 a month. I don't know if that's gone up since then, but you pay for it's like $20 a month. And
it's like 20 or 25.
Yeah, it's like 20 or 25. And you could pay that on a fee and, do it that way. I wouldn't recommend that, only because why pay monthly when you can just pay once and get the whole thing for free? You know what I mean? Right. Unfortunately, do either of you know some free apps? Because I've always just used Ableton or Adobe.
So I mean, the easiest thing, you literally, the beautiful thing is you could go in Google or Bing or whatever you use, Fox, and you could search whatever software. There's so many out there, but the ones that we have for free there is Audacity. That's PC and Mac. You can also do GarageBand, which is Mac. You could do a little bit of Filmora, which also acts as an audio and video, mostly video. So I don't recommend that too much for audio, but you can do some stuff in there. And then, like Tom said, there's the free Audacity and GarageBand. There's a lot more. It just depends what you're comfortable with. And then there's paid, like he said, Adobe Audition, which is roughly $25-ish a month, and then Ableton, which is the big suite that we use.
use that. If you're gonna pay,
yeah.
I know it sounds pricey. Use Ableton if you're gonna pay for any audio, use that, because it's like a step down from Pro Tools, which is like, I know the industry standard on audio editing, especially when it comes to making music. But it's not that far off, and you can get a bunch of plugins for it if you have to. Ableton's freaking awesome. I use it for everything else. And as far as equipment,
I have some pulled up.
we got a lot
If you wanna
here.
talk about
Yeah, we got a PV 14BT board, which is pretty cool. We use that mostly for our phone calls nowadays, which is pretty crazy. We have the Apollo Universal Audio Interface, which is really dope. We have I don't know the brand of our headphone amp, to be quite honest with you. It's got like 6 channels on it, which is pretty awesome. And we have the Scarlett Focusrite, like 8 channels on it, which is pretty great. All of this, it's like regular, recording studio equipment, which is pretty awesome. But if you're looking to just podcast from home, there's plenty of, USB microphones you can just plug and play, and you'll sound just as fine.
Yeah, I have a couple stuff here. So like Tom said, some of the, like when he said the PV board, like usually those boards and knobs that you always see, they have smaller condensed versions of that if you decide to go that route. They have, like he said, the Focusrite, which is just an audio interface, which is also USB based. That could have, as like he said, we have 8. It goes from 1 up to 8. I think there is even more.
This is 16. It's a beast, and it's
there's
really
even
cool.
more. It really just depends on your comfortability of what you want to do with a lot of the microphones. There are a lot of microphones that are USB based. Some are greater than others. You have like the Blue Yeti, which you've probably heard. There's Zoom, which one? It's the ZUM2 USB microphone. There's that. It's usually a podcast bundle. So there's that. There's one that Brim has that we all have. It's the Biodynamic Fox mic, which is good. It has a bundle with that as well. It really just depends.
I use this everywhere.
That's just a plug and play when you're first starting out. What we like to tell people is there are a lot of people out there who say, oh, you should get this microphone. Don't use USB, blah, blah, blah. I like to say, you don't have my pockets, so don't tell me what to do, kind of thing.
Yeah.
In the nicest way possible. Because first of all, we started out with a Blue Yeti, to be quite honest. That one of our first shows we're doing that. And now look at us. We are happily endorsed by Biodynamic, and we have these awesome microphones. But this isn't the first thing that people may start with. So we like to give people options. There are budget mics, there are mid-range mics, there are premium mics. It just really depends on what you are willing to spend. Of course, if you're gonna be spending a little bit, but there are many options. Like we said, you could do the free Audacity, and then you could get a lower budget mic just to start out, just to get the motions going, right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of budget microphones. There's Rode microphones. Like we said, there's mid-range, which also has Rode. There's Shure, SHURE microphones. There's the Yeti microphones. Really just depends on what you're willing to pay. We could really go into different things of voice-wise and whatnot, but that would probably take up too much time with everything. But just whatever your pocket is saying, go with it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of USB mics that are cheap and a lot of USB mics that are almost like mid-range microphones. Just depends on what kind of setup you want and what you want to do with it, to be quite honest.
XLR is going to sound cleaner. It is going to sound better, but there's plenty of USB microphones like the ones Kim listed that'll get you close enough. Like damn near nobody will be able to tell anybody untrained won't be able to tell the difference.
And what an XLR is, XLR cable that goes into the audio interface kind of thing. There's the difference between, if you're going to do a USB microphone, you could have your laptop and plug it in and boom, make sure it's all connected. Or if you want to go more into it, there's the audio interface, the microphone, you need the XLR cable, you need headphones that plug into the amp. There's all different things that go into play. Don't be intimidated at all. Really don't be intimidated. It's much easier. And even if you wanted to start out, you could talk on your phone. That's fine. But there are a lot of of if you're gonna not want to pay on the editing software, start out free, learn all that fun stuff, maybe splurge a little bit on like a USB mic or whatever mic you want to do, and try it out that way. So
I suggest to go and check out the Fox, because this beautiful little microphone, you can hear I sound pretty clear. Again, the only reason why you're getting an echo is because I'm in a very wide room with minimal furniture in it. So what do you call it? I cannot.
Also, do you definitely have Zoom running through the Fox mic?
Do I have? What do you mean?
Like, is Zoom picking up the Fox mic, or is it picking up your computer? Your computer's
No,
mic?
it's picking up the Fox.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, it's picking up the Fox. What do you call it? And this microphone I take with me everywhere. What do you call it? It comes in a package. It also comes with these incredible headphones. What do you call it? Which are the same headphones we use in studio. They're comfortable using those for literally hours on end. So I suggest it. And the package also comes with Cubase, I believe it's called, which is similar to like an Ableton and so forth. But the bundle comes with it for free. So you might as well get the bundle, and it's Creator Pro bundle, and you have a little bit of everything. But again, if it's a little too costly for you, you want to go a little less expensive, you can get a Yeti, you can get stuff like that, but it really comes down to preference and what you're looking for. I personally will only use Bayer Dynamic at this point because we're endorsed, and that's
great. It's just they're really good just because it's very new podcaster friendly, simply because they make a podcasting bundle. You know what I mean? Like, it comes with the headphones, comes with the recording software, like Brim said, and comes with the microphone. I mean, It's literally everything you're going to need, and you literally just plug it into your computer and off you go. So
yeah, it's pretty simple.
Definitely all the ones that Kim listed are great. The Fox is probably where I'd say to go if you're looking for USB. And I saw that somebody asked, I don't know if we're addressing questions in the chat, why do we have so many channels? We have so many channels in case we want to add a bunch of microphones. This studio is configured in a really weird freaking way right now. So we can't easily add new microphones right away, but we have a lot of channels just in case, we have we got six usable mics in here. If we need to add one or two more people, we have we should have the capability.
Do not get me started, Matthew.
Another thing, listen, I'm on the affiliate game, Brim's not, but I am. But I do wanna mention some other thing too. What's important is that all of this has to encompass is if you're doing podcasting, you need it to go somewhere, right? It can't just be like, all right, I recorded, now what do I do? You need a hosting site, which is an RSS feed. And there's multiple places where you could upload this to. There's SoundCloud, there's something called Libsyn, there's Blueberry. What we use is Spreaker. And, up until a certain point, they give you free hours. And then once you pass that threshold, you will probably have to pay depending on how many hours you record. Never delete them. I always say just pay for it, especially if this is something that you're serious about. But we do use Spreaker, and I think we have like the Pro or like Business or whatever we have. Just because we've been doing this for how many years now, we need all of that. And plus it stores it. So you need a hosting site to put it out to all of these other things like iHeart and Spotify and other syndications. So you're going to need a hosting site for that. So like I said, SoundCloud, Libsyn, Blueberry, Spreaker. Spreaker's a great one. So definitely check those out too.
We have the second to the top. The top one is for a full network, which we don't need at this point. So even though we do have multiple shows out of Grindhouse. You have another next question, gentlemen?
Yeah, so I have a couple more from me, and then we're going to go into the member questions, both either in the chat or the ones submitted from the signups. So my next question for you guys is, what do you do if you're struggling with content or topics to talk about?
We make fun of each other.
I mean, you're not wrong.
He's not wrong.
I'll go with this first, and you guys could say what you want to say with that. How usually I do is I'm always looking at content. From the moment we stop the one show, something else pops up, and then I'm like, well, all right, we didn't get to speak about it, so we'll have to speak about it next week. Depending on how many times you decide to put out your show. We do it obviously once a week. You could do it multiple times a week. You could do it as many times as you want. Up to you and your schedule. as long as it's consistent, like we like to say. But there's multiple places that we just look on. It's the beautiful thing of internet. And of course, we always have something going on with our lives, and we all work really well together, and we all know each other. So there's really no, we're not really sparse on trying to find content, but like best thing is just go to Google, see what other podcasters you're like are talking about. Like if you're an entertainment show, there's plenty of platforms to look and then talk about it. Like we said, try to find guests. There's just so many ways to try to find content.
Yeah.
And the best way is internet. I mean, it's infinite. You're always going to have content. And what's best for you is also maybe sit down and make a list of the things that you want to talk about. Not necessarily it could be broken down to that episode, or it could be, a month or a 2-month or a 6-month plan of what you may want to talk about. But I do recommend taking that time to sit down and actually writing out what you may specifically want to talk about, because as time goes on, you're going to add more to the list as well.
Quick answer, Jennifer, is yes. We'll talk about it. We'll get to your question a little bit later. Just so because I saw it pop up.
She was crocheting. She was doing cool stuff over there.
To piggyback on what Kim said, first and foremost, I'm very rarely at a loss for words. Okay, very rarely am I at a loss for words. I can talk forever and ever and just go into different topics and fluidly. And when you put Kim, Tom, and I in a room together, we could just piggyback off each other and throw things back and forth. If you are doing a show where you have a partner or 2 partners, multiple, whatever it is, you should be able to piggyback off each other nice and fluidly. Might not come right away, but it should come. And if it doesn't, you need a new partner. That's just the way it is, to be blunt. If you have a guest on, I don't care who it is. I don't necessarily need to know anything about them. I could still have a plus conversation with them. It comes with practice. It comes with, knowing what to say and how to say it and how to get around things and, get things out of the other person that other people wouldn't necessarily get out of them. And that goes for your hosts as well. You know what I mean? Tom, Kim, and I, like Kim said, we know each other very, very well. Some a little bit more than others, you know what I'm saying? But touche. But what do you call it? The fact of the matter is like Kim knows and Tom knows what gets under my skin and vice versa. So if we want to just sit and start something just to, we're getting a little low, maybe we'll throw a little zinger in there or, something that is going to make somebody giggle. And then we talk about that. And then something naturally flows thereafter. You know what I mean? Or, we say, oh man, like I was just watching television and this commercial came on for the new She-Hulk flick, television series. And, and we'll just sit and roll off that. And then Tom will be like, yeah, like we just did this the other day. And Tom was talking about, originally when the first things were rolling with it, it looked like CGI was awful, but now it's looking good. And Kim's like, oh, it looks like something I definitely want to check out. Boom, 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 boom. Then we're talking about that. And then we roll into something else that might be Marvel or, you know what I mean? So what you do, as an interim before you get on an actual topic or while you're trying to figure out a topic, it's just pulling from your everyday, knowledge of each other or something that you saw or a part of or anything. What I do not suggest is going after like a headline that you saw that you didn't read the article. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I hate that so much, and these guys know that. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You could, unless you want me to talk about. I just hate when people they just read the headline and then they don't go and actually read the whole article. It could be like dog bites human, and you're like, oh my god, the dog's so bad, but you're like, oh, the human stole something from the other owner, and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Deserved, so like. I just read everything and look at where the sources are and all that. Doesn't matter if it's whatever it is, just read it.
And don't put a lot of pressure on yourself to don't make it super pressurized, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Just sit there and talk. You know what I mean? Like Kim said, just surf the internet, find things that interest you. Anything that pops in your head, just start, speaking. Like I say it in the 101s. This isn't like regular radio where you gotta answer to a program director or any bosses that are making you say things or making you hit certain points. It's your show, your creative control. It's, you say whatever you want, so if you put a lot of pressure on yourself to be like, oh my God, what am I going to talk about today? You might clam up and have nothing to say. So just take it easy, realize that it's just, you're doing this because you enjoy it, and, the content will come.
And that's
it's
the
not that
beauty
bad.
of podcasting, because you don't have to really go by the, regular terrestrial radio, AM, FM, right? Your podcast, you're internet based. You could pretty much almost do whatever, except for obviously if you have little music in the background or anything, it has to be royalty free, or pictures, anything goes up royalty free, unless it's your own. But when you're having a show, it's your own show. Have fun with it. I mean, if you're interviewing someone, yeah, look them up a little bit, read about them, but maybe you just want to learn more about them while on the show. Or if you have no guest and it's just a random, hey, let's just talk about anything, then you pretty much almost don't need any content. Maybe you have some things and you want to touch upon certain things, certain topics, but then you may go on a rant about something completely else, and people may love that, but you're just being you. The whole point of a podcast is for you to just have fun, express yourself. And then also, if you decide to turn it into a business, great. You never know what it turns into.
So it's pretty much almost like a Field of Dreams. You build it and they will come.
Yeah.
Yes.
Love that movie.
There's your field.
You create for yourself and your people will find you. Basically what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I do believe in that heavily, because I do know friends, they'll tell me like they'll have different ideas, whether if it's for business or pursuing their passion, and they won't know if either will be successful or not, because they don't like act on it. They don't put it out there to see if like anything comes of it. They don't really try. It's always just the idea of it. But like you guys say, you never know. Once you put it out there, you'll find the people out there looking for you. So
yeah,
very true.
So my last question for you guys before we go into member questions is, what do you guys do to take care of yourself from things like burnout or stress, or just staying motivated to continue all and to not want to shut it down, walk away? What do you guys do to just do for your mental well-being?
Personally, therapy has worked wonders on my life. Seeking help, finding somebody to talk to is amazing, especially nowadays, since like mental health help is just so big. Like, it's gotten a big spotlight, and there's a lot of avenues that you can go that are even cost effective. I don't remember the service that I used, but therapy helps. If you feel burnt out, taking some breaks, listening to yourself is the biggest help. You know what I mean? Personally, sometimes it's more of just, you can't walk away because you've just been a part of it for so long. You've been doing it for so long. You can't just walk away, but you got to take care of yourself, take care of your brain, take care of your mind. And I've been beating the drum of, if you need it, seek help, go talk to a therapist. It's not, you're not weak for it. You're not, there's nothing wrong with going to find a professional to just sit and speak to, because it's been the best decision I've made recently is giving that a shot.
Yeah, I mean, to piggyback off Tom, that's awesome and everything. I think if you're at that point where you're so stressed and you are burned out and anything, always try to sit back and reassess. That's the best thing you could do, is sit back, reassess, because you're stressed. You are going a mile a minute. You obviously are doing too much and need to take a break. Much like how Brim is on vacation right now, so you need to take breaks all the time. If you're going, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter how many times you take breaks. Take breaks. Sometimes it's difficult for people, and totally understand. But when you have those moments of maybe you just don't want to do something for that week or put something off, go ahead. It's okay. You know your show is consistent, but if for some reason for 1 week you can't, maybe put someone in charge for that week, that's fine. Or you put it out on social media, hey, I'm not having anything this week. The world does not end, right? You could do whatever, but business is still business and it goes on. But also, like I said, you're stressed, you need to take breaks, you need to sit back and reassess and realign, and either try to go on vacation. If you can't, go out and take walks, go listen to your favorite music, go, if you're able to see plays, do that. If you're able to hang out with friends or family, or go find your favorite food, whatever it is that makes you happy, that makes you calm and collected, do that. And when you do decide to come back into the game of things, ease your way into it. No one's saying, oh, boom, 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 you have to work hard and then things happen. Yeah, of course, everyone knows you have to work hard and make things happen, but not at the cost of your mental health. So definitely take a step back, reassess when you are at that time of burnt out, because you all may hit that at some point. It is very possible. You may be hitting it now and you have no idea in your careers. But always try to take a step back, reassess, and just find you and chill.
I dropped a link to one of my blogs in the section there for chat. What do you call it? So that's some advice. What do you call it? If you guys want to check that out, it's self-care tips, advice for anyone from entertainers to entrepreneurs. Just really good list of things and things to kind of work on to help yourself out. In terms of me personally, I mean, and Jalen will tell you, he knows me well enough, just like Kim and Tom, but you want an outsider view. I mean, I work myself to the bone. So I'm nonstop going, and for me, my self-help for me is to do more work and to find more ways to kind of make things happen and, plant more seeds. But after a certain amount of time, your body can't handle it. You start feeling that burnout and you need to take a step back in order to take those 10 steps forward. So, even though I'm on vacation now, I'm still working. I'm still I'm here right now, and I was in Orlando, I was still working and I was still doing things and doing appearances and all that jazz. But that also, you also can't lose sight of what puts food on the table. You know what I mean? And or something that can put food on the table. So, but you do need to treat that burnout, and you need to treat it, how you're going to do it best. I mean, for many people, it's different. I know Tom likes to take nice walks. He likes to go out camping. You know what I mean? Kim, is also a walker. She goes, the two of them will go out on walks. She loves to go and take a break out to Disney, as does Tom, as does where I was too.
I wouldn't recommend Disney as a way to decompress, to be quite honest with you. I would not recommend Disney as something to go do when you want to cure a burnout or you want to relax. It's fun, but that's a work vacation in itself.
Exactly.
Go on TikTok and just watch the people. They do that.
What also helps, and it's helped me, is make a list of all the things that make you happy or that you're passionate about. Literally, just write it down. Grab a piece of paper, just write it down. Don't put it in your phone notes, because I just feel like when you feel burnt out and you're feeling stressed, just staring at your phone does more harm than it does good. Grab a pen and paper, write down all the things that you love, all the things that make you happy, and you pull yourself out of it.
Yeah, and
take care of your mental health. Just that's all I'm saying. Take care of you, because it's so unbelievably important.
Yeah. Burnout's the point where, now it's time for you to, like we said, take a step back, and the lists that, like Tom said, go do that list. Go do all those things. Chill out for a bit. That's the time to realign your brain.
Yeah, I remember for me personally, before this job, I used to work retail at Blake Art Materials in the city, and our location was very fast-paced because we were right next to Parsons Design School, and especially back to school time is very fast-paced. It's a lot of moving things, like dealing with 30 customers at once. And I would feel so stressed out sometimes. It's also because I would be tired from starting at 7 a.m. And usually by 1 p.m., I'm just exhausted. And there are times where I almost pass out because I'm running back and forth. I just need to sit down. But then once I started noticing that level of being overwhelmed and stressed, I end up doing this just small thing of just stopping whatever I'm doing, go to the back instead of like stock or break room, whatever. Just close my eyes for 30 seconds and just take a few deep breaths. And I'm usually okay for that. Just slowing down, kind of like what Kim's saying, and pretty much the whole moral of the story is just slow down. Like we're always like trying to go like at a fast pace, doing so many different things. There's nothing wrong of stopping, smelling the roses, just kind of seeing where things are, and then move forward after. So I think it's great advice, guys. Thank you.
Yay.
Okay, so we're gonna go to some of our member questions, some in the chat. I know some have been answered already. We haven't answered all of them yet. We also have some submitted from members through the signups. So I'm gonna go through some of the ones in the signups first. First one is, Bonjour, Grindhouse Radio. I'm a freelancer who primarily works in remote broadcasting, media studies, and video games. I started when iPods were lame, but Zune was the hot new thing. I don't think Zune was ever the hot new thing.
I miss my iPod. Bring back my iPod. It was the greatest thing in the world.
Freelancer to freelancer, how do you stay up on emergency calls from folks who remember you from when you first started working in your field, but refuse to take a polite no for an answer? That could be related to podcasting, could be related to other business ventures, however you guys want to take that. Feel free.
What I guess meaning.
How do you say no to people, I guess, if they ask for some things that you don't want to do?
So here's I mean, I of course that's a really broad question, but here to give an example and to put it in terms of, well, before I get into that, just the grand scale of things, it's okay to say no. Saying no is okay. Matter of fact, it's probably one of the best things you'll ever do, because if you learn to say no more, you'll have more time for the yeses that are going to make sense. You know what I'm saying? You know, there was a point where in my career that I said yes to every single thing. And and then when I was doing things that I'd said yes to, I wound up missing bigger and better things that had I said no, I would have had something else. Or I got involved with people that I shouldn't have gotten involved with and found out later. That being said, in terms of the Grindhouse Radio, one of the biggest things that I get on a daily basis, and I'm talking about a daily basis, I can't go throughout a week without getting at least 3 people asking, oh, so, when can I get on Grindhouse? Can get, and the way I tell them is that, it's the truth, is we have a very strict policy. We're a corporation and we have a very strict policy. And, we have a guideline of who can be on the show and who can't be on the show. And it's not all my decision. It's a group decision. Now, can any of us put whoever we want on the show whenever we want? More or less. But at the end of the day, if I do it for this one and that one and the next, you got to do it for everybody. So, so we try to steer to really stick to our morals. And, the only people that come on show are celebrities. And every so often, Kim's grandma will come on, or I'll call my father up. You know what I'm saying? Or we'll have Yuan, who's done work with us before. You know what I'm saying? There are different people that, will make the cut, but there's a reason for it. But, again, it's okay to say, listen, no, but it's not necessarily because I don't want you to come on. It's because we have guidelines set, you know what I'm saying, that don't allow somebody that is not of a certain stature in pop culture and so forth for that to be the case, because everybody why can't I come on? Well, because if I do it for you, I got to do it for everybody. Same thing with promoting Kickstarters and GoFundMe's. I get people asking me every freaking day, can you post this when we come? No, I can't. I'm sorry. I can't do that, because if I do it for you, I got to do it for everybody. And the fact of the matter is if if I do it for you and I didn't do it for other people, all I'm going to do is I'm going to be pissing everybody off and so forth. So I'd rather do nothing for anybody. And I don't even post we don't do Kickstarter. You know what I mean? We could have done a couple of Kickstarters that would have helped us out. You know what I'm saying? And I haven't done it. Doesn't mean I won't. It doesn't mean we won't. But, like at the end of the day, if I did that, then what does my feed look like? My feed looks like I'm asking everybody to go check out all these products and projects. And, then what happens when it's time for myself or one of the people that I work with, to put something out there. So it's okay to say no, and it's okay to have a reason for it. And if
Mhm.
they can't accept that reason, then that's on them, not on you. You know, that's
Yeah.
it.
100%. Yeah, and it goes back to like kind of what Tom said earlier, like when we had 3 guests on, on a show, the amount of people that we have asking and inquiring, we would just have a show full of guests for every single segment, and we can't do that because it's company policy. And like Brim said, it's simply just if we do for one, then we have to do for all, and it's just it's you can't, and that's the nicest way you could say. And and like Brim said, they have to understand. Everyone, of course, when you reach out, you have hopes of being like, hey, I'm going to be on the show, and if you don't, you're like, oh, I'm not on the show. But you sometimes you just can't, and that's just the policy of some people. Whatever their reasoning is for, whether it's corporate or whatever, that's just their reasoning, and it's okay because how many podcasts out there? Millions. There are so many people out there. Do what you could do it. It's okay. Don't worry about it. You're being rejected. That's okay too. You want to reject people. That's okay too. It's okay to say no. Simply.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it is your podcast, your business. You can
Your
do whatever
brand.
you want with it. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
do whatever you want, whether you want to have certain guests, don't want to have certain guests. So that's completely fine. And sometimes
I'll tell you what I want. I want some s'mores, and I still have not been given any s'mores. I'm very upset about this. You thought I forgot. I'm 3 times your size, Jalen. I'm going to eat you. You're going to be my little s'more.
Oh boy,
Jesus
oh
Christ.
boy.
All right.
So tell you what, I will mail you some s'mores whenever you fly back. You let me know. I'll do Amazon Cart Direct. I can't give you the fire. I'll give you some matches though. Do whatever you want.
Fine, we'll take it. It's
Brimgar,
okay.
fui. All right. What's the next question? What else we got?
How do you ensure your privacy and safety, things like your address or any sort of sensitive information, put yourself and your business out there on social media or just on the internet in general?
I'm not sure there really is. I mean, do your best to not put it out there, I guess, is the best. Don't put it on, don't attach it to any of your social medias, don't attach it to your shows. I mean, unfortunately, the way social media kind of is now, everybody can kind of sort of find it, like that's kind of the way the internet is. It's moving. You could do your best. I know there's services that I don't really know that can help keep your personal information private, but for the most part, if you're putting anything out on the internet, somebody's going to find you. There really is. It's a really kind of creepy way to look at the world now, but there really is no hiding anymore unless you decide to go off the grid. And sometimes that sounds awesome. It's really difficult. Do your best to just not put it anywhere is my best.
I had go ahead, Brim. I'll go after.
One thing that I would suggest is to open up a P.O. box for any of your business musings. What do you call it? Open up a P.O. box, or they do have a lot of those places like the UPS stores and so forth that they have, it's like a central address where you can have all business things sent, even though it's not an office space. People will think it's an office space. So if people wind up going to try to seek you out, they're actually going to a P.O. box or a mailbox somewhere. That's key one. We have a business address, so we use our business address. But your personal addresses, that is public record. So what you have to do is whenever anything comes up, there are all the different, if you pay $20, you get this one and that one and the next one and all this information. And you can look at it. Well, what you got to do is you got to go on there and you got to say, for me, I'm off of as many as I know of. There might be a couple more that I have to get off of, but you have to contact them, say, listen, I'm in the public eye, and I cannot be listed on here. It must be taken off. It must be taken off immediately. And you give them your information and your family's information, and they wipe it all clean. But again, you've got to do the work, which is the pain in the ass about it. So at the end of the day, I've done it. I actually did it for Kim and Tom before, whether you knew it or not. I've taken you off things that I was on. So, I make sure that's off. My wife is off. My family members are off. My ex-wife is off. You know what I'm saying? Like, I make sure everybody is wiped. I say all these people are involved with me and they cannot be on. And You're able to get away with it. So you can't give them a list of 20 people, but like a reasonable amount, is usually doable. I usually do about 10 people. But again, you got to find the stuff. So there are different sites and different sites pop up and so forth. Once you're out there, once you're in the public eye, and again, it depends on how popular you get. At the end of the day, nobody might care. Nobody, and nobody's going to look for you. But
you could do it now if you wanted. I'm pretty sure you could do it in some way. If you're not comfortable, you could probably do that.
You PO box it. You PO box it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's an annual fee. You do the same thing with, like I said, the mailbox. Don't use your home address. If you go and you do, what do you call it? You have a website, a URL, any of the stuff that you put in. Well, guess what? If you give your home address, it's going to be what comes up on the internet. So when somebody does a backward search and it says, who is, or better, who is, for whatever whatever website you are, whatever you have in there is what's going to come up. So if you gave your home address, guess who's now got your home address? You see what I'm saying? And that's, if you're an internet sleuth and you know what you're doing, you can get anything if you look hard enough. So when you do stuff, get yourself a PO box, get yourself something. It doesn't cost a lot of money. You don't need a big, ginormous thing. You get a small one, and you'll keep it safe. If you have an office space, use your office space. Never use your home address if you don't have to.
Yeah, and going back to the whole thing with Tom said, like, if you're doing like the social media side or anything, well, simply like post what you want to post and don't post what you don't want to post. And the same thing goes for if you do decide to start a podcast or a business or a blog or anything like that. Whatever you type or put out there is what stays out there, depending on how quickly you delete it or who snatched it up or whatever, right? So whatever you're putting out there stays. So just be cautious of that. Like, for instance, there are some, we've had some potential sponsors and whatnot that may not align with, someone in particular or us as a group or the brand as a group. And it's okay. And we say no to it because we do have other sponsors. We have a certain alignment and whatnot. It's just whatever you're comfortable with. But it's the internet. People try to find anything. They try to find anything from, you years ago up until now. So just always be cautious of what you're going to post, no matter what, professional or not. Because you always hear these stories of, like teachers from years ago, they had a post on Facebook and now they're fired. But that was 20 years ago and they don't drink anymore and they were out at a party and blah, blah, blah. So you never know. Just be cautious and be careful and, try to put your best foot forward and just be your authentic self, but safe.
Yeah, I had a client, she runs a restaurant and the only thing that they do, like social media wise, Instagram. And he asked me to set up a Facebook page for them. But then he asked me, but I don't really want to be on Facebook. I'm a little bit paranoid about that. But he already takes a lot of like videos of himself promoting the restaurant, like dishes, specials, whatever. I don't think he realized that Instagram is also owned by Facebook.
Yeah, it's owned.
It is.
And once I told him that, I think it kind of shattered his world. Like, it's just the look on his face. Like he looked like he was about to freak out. I'm like,
Zuckerberg has my information.
Yeah.
Zucky.
Pretty much. Dawn asked in the chat, can you suggest the sites that we should check for things like the addresses and like background checks or anything like that?
What the problem is that there are so many of them.
Yeah.
That and they're all like, findthisperson.com and blah blah blah.
It goes into legal a little bit too.
Yeah, if you go and Google Google your name, just Google your name. All right, that's the best way to do it. Google your name, and then you'll see it all pop up, and it'll say find so and so. Who was the one who
Dawn.
did it? Dawn. All right, so Dawn, it'll Google your full name, and then it's going to tell you. It's going to be like, all right, well, get all the information that we have about Dawn so and so, and these are, and it'll show. You'll see it. It'll come up on the screen. You'll click on your name. And it'll show you like all your past addresses in the last umpteenth amount of years. It'll give you, it'll give your phone numbers. It has all that information. It's all there.
Just be careful. Just be careful of scammers too, and all of that. I mean, that's a big one too. If they're like, pay to take it down, then no. Obviously,
you don't pay
scammers. Don't pay anyone. Don't do any of that. You just go to Google and check that out. I mean, we don't have any suggestions right now for you, but just search.
Checkmate might be one of them. You know, I think that might be one of them. I don't know. You really just have to do a quick search and you'll see. Because if you and put your name in quotes.
Yeah, and in addition to the topic of anything of legality and legal issues, Carolina asks, do we need to have a podcast guest sign a legal agreement prior to doing a podcast altogether? Or should you have one?
Say that again?
If you should have a podcast guest sign a legal agreement or contract prior to doing a podcast, just to essentially protect yourself if they end up trying to decide to sue you after the episode goes live.
If they did the show themselves,
Yeah,
they've already agreed to do the show, so they have already put themselves out there. I don't believe they can sue you after the fact, and if they do, I mean, that would be a really pathetic thing. I don't know if Matt's going to give you a different answer, but I don't believe that you're going to have an issue with that.
I've heard some people do put in some kind of sort of agreement, like a blank slate of something. You don't have to. I mean, I'm sure there are other people out there. Like, once again, we bring on people who are like friends of ours, but if you're going on the platform itself, you're putting yourself out there. So that's kind of like the agreement already. And
Matthew, I was gonna ask Matthew if he had any.
Yeah. So, no legal advice being given here, but I'm a lawyer who interviews lawyers mostly, and so I can tell you what I do. And I just get on record when we start the recording that I have their consent to record their video and audio likeness and to use it for all purposes for law subscribed, and just make sure I get their consent. But I also give what's called a residual right, where they can, if they want to, they could ask me to take something down, I'll take it down. And so we just get that on record. And attorneys give opinions. Like, we're not scientists, like, we don't come up with facts. We're like doctors, it's an opinion. And so I had a lawyer come on my podcast once, and I gave her that consent thing that I say, just like a 2-second thing. And she's like, no, you're crazy. I'm a lawyer and I'm appearing here out of my own free will. And that's like implied consent for what you're asking for. I was like, all right, cool. So, everyone has different opinions. It doesn't hurt to get a little something in there. Is this the kind of thing you need to draw up a full contract for? I know someone who's a lawyer who has a podcast who did that. But it also creates friction. So it's a business decision too. So it's kind of up to you. Could somebody still sue you? Probably. Could you defend yourself pretty well? Also probably yes, if they willingly appeared on your podcast. But if you like chop up the audio and you like make them say something that they didn't say, really, like out of context or something, then yeah, they probably wouldn't have given you permission to do that. So also just, be careful, generally speaking. But it couldn't hurt to get a little something like in there. Like if you sign up through Calendly or something, you could have like a disclaimer, if they're agreeing to something or not. I mean, if you really want like to know the legal advice, hire a lawyer who's licensed in your state and get them to draft something up for you that you could use in every episode.
Cool.
And
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, and it's like-
Thank you.
We had someone like a guest, I don't know, maybe about 2 months ago or something, where usually what we tell our guests is, listen, we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and even early Thursday to give you time for if you want something switched out or anything. We always say friends first. So if anything switched out, you have up until that moment. And then on our end, we are able to change it. And, if something's wrong, you're like, oh no, we can't, can you take that out? If we're able to get to it, we'll take it out. And whatever it's syndicated to, we'll take it. But if there's
NDAs are a real thing.
If there are other syndications that pull from an iHeart or Spotify, that we tell them, well, that's not on us. They pulled from that. So whatever is edited then, we edited on our end. We did what we did in our part, but we gave you a couple days notice until it goes live. Like I said, we've had a guest that came on. They couldn't say some things that they said, and then it aired and they said, oh no, we can't do that. We edited on our end. We did what we could do because friends first, and we were able to get to it. And also legal wise, we don't want to get into trouble with that either. But anything further than from our editing and where we were capable of doing is on them because we gave them ample amount of time.
Prior to every show, when we have the guests coming on, I have a conversation. the three of us are in the room. We're all on together with the guest. And I say, hey, just so you know, we're going to go between 15 and 20 minutes. We go a little over, we go a little over. What do you call it? If for some reason you get comfortable and you say something that you shouldn't have said because there's an NDA out there, you weren't supposed to do this, or maybe there's something you're like, maybe I shouldn't have put that juju out there, whatever it is, let us know. We will cut it out prior. Meaning we're giving you the first right of refusal to take out whatever content we just did. Okay, right at the bat. But if you wind up not giving us that, everything after that is you've consent to letting it go out. You know what I mean? So there should never be an issue if you're giving them the rules right up front. If you want to do a contract, like Matt said, I guarantee you're going to get friction from some people, because if I'm coming on your show and you send me a contract, I'm going to say, yeah, I'm not interested. Thank you anyway. Because I'm not going to sign anything, because you could come after me for something. You know what I mean? And it creates friction.
Yeah.
So,
as long as you're cool with people, you know what I mean? You shouldn't really have a problem. Like, I think Matt mentioned it. Don't cut up audio and make it sound like people are saying things that they didn't necessarily mean. If you're podcasting is really free flowing medium, so as long as you're not out to get somebody and you're not making someone sound like a fool that they didn't do on their own, you should be fine. As long as you're cool, as long as you're cool and your guest is cool, you should totally be fine.
Except that, that time that Jalen said that, he was going to get me s'mores, and I still don't have those s'mores. I'm sorry. What was the next one?
Well, I want to say thank you again for Matt for that. And also Christiane, going back to the delete me, removes your info. So if you want to do that, check that out. But yes, Jalen, on to the next question.
I'm going to go to Jen's question in the chat that Brim briefly announced before. Grindhouse primarily focuses on pop culture. Have you ever had guests who are in fashion, and do you do discussions on sustainability of products?
We have, but very briefly. So with Grindhouse, pop culture goes into a little bit of everything, Jen. So, everything you do, you live, you breathe. Even though we don't do politics is part of pop culture. Even though fashion is a specific industry, it very much is involved in pop culture. So, when we talk about fashion, it's usually like when we'll have friends of ours from Top Model on, or, you know what I mean, and so forth. And we will talk about, certain things within the industry, and, and sustainability has come up. Can I give you any information about it? Probably not, because it was a while back. But I know Sarah Hartshorn, Clara Nabia, and a bunch of other people, have been on the show, and we have discussed it. Is there more to that question, though, that maybe we can answer? Your mic is muted on.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, I work in the fashion industry, but I also am working on a travel line with products and stuff like that. So I've been trying to experiment with different media for promoting it, because it kind of helps to, since COVID, we're like in a new lifestyle, basically, right? So I'm looking and trying to gather info too on what consumers are finding they need for traveling at this time, and they get also feedback. So I was just trying to see, like with a podcast, is there a way to also gather data a little bit as far as, or get feedback from people in regards to products and how, and
listener wise.
Yeah, and also like sustainability is like, I use a lot of recycled materials in my products, so just to get feedback also on more so something that somebody doesn't like or doesn't stand behind, because that's what most people fear from a product side is, crossing that boundary of where somebody would have an issue.
Yeah, I would say that a lot of, content from podcasting to literally anything, it's all content creating is kind of, you're creating a lot of them, they call it communities. So if you're putting a podcast out and you're getting it, you're hitting all of the people that would be in your niche. They're going to come in and they're going to give you a lot of their opinions, and you create a little bit of a community that's going to be centralized around your content. So you could be getting, if you're doing a podcast about some of the fashion and some of the ideas that you have, you could absolutely get some feedback and some opinions of the people that are listening and the people that are interested in what you're doing. So I think it's, especially if you're trying to get in front of people, it's totally, it wouldn't hurt you. Like, I can't say that it's definitely going to help you because it's a podcast and there's a gajillion podcasts out there and, people are listening to new ones every day, but I can definitively say it won't hurt you in any way.
And also, I mean, I know there's one question with Jalen with social media stuff, but use platforms. You have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. TikTok's blowing up too, where if you have certain products, maybe people are interested, you get the feedback right there. You could make posts and ask, hey, if you ordered, or if there is an order, if it's through sometimes, let's say if you use a MailChimp or anything like that, ask them. Like if you order from Amazon, sometimes a couple days later, they ask for the quality of, rate the star, how many stars is it? And also if you could, put a little description of what you thought of it. Same thing for you and any of your products. And the same thing for podcasting. I mean, you could always just ask people as you grow, or try to get an email base of saying, hey, how am I doing? Or go on Instagram and, put up a poll itself and say, hey, how's everyone doing? Ask me some questions. Are you liking what I'm doing? And there's feedback in that way. It may not be traditional ways, the traditional way of you wanting that instant feedback, but it's another avenue for you to do that.
You could also probably frame your show in certain ways where you talk about sustainability of like what current trends are, you can even like do product reviews, like, is this actually sustainable or not?
Yeah.
Or you can even like shed light on actual companies that say they're sustainable, but it really isn't. So maybe you shouldn't buy them if you really want to go that route. It's completely up to you.
Jen,
there's a lot of contradiction with sustainability, and it really depends who's the coin that you're looking at, you know what I mean? Yeah. As far as with a lot of things. So, but it's also how you present, I think the information, and as long as you're not, arrogant about it, and you're not, you're just trying to get a feel of how people feel and perceive things, you know what I mean? And maybe what that majority is out there right now, as far as, and what they're wanting or missing in the market too, a little bit. And also to share like experiences or travel journeys too. That's the other thing. So it's not.
It kind of answered your question. Sorry, I totally went over you, but that kind of answered your question too, in a way where like, yeah, you're pretty much, not a lot of people, they know the word sustainability, but they don't understand it. So you're going to be putting posts out there telling people, hey, this is what it is. This is what I know. This is the products that I do and I make, and, and it all coincides together. You're going to be there teaching people these things. And kind of like what Jalen said, like maybe you can create content that, is a comparing kind of thing, or showing off products that you've used to showcase and show people like, hey, this is sustainability, and it could be fashionable too, definitely utilize social media to the best of your abilities, because I'll see some things with people making food and I'm like, wow, didn't think of that before. And boom, now I'm a follower, or now I'm buying the product from you. So I hope that helps a little bit, but I know Brim has to say some stuff.
Ready for some real information, Jen? No, I'm just kidding.
Wow, Brim.
What's the dealio?
So I just want to clarify, are you talking about you specifically doing a podcast based on sustainability of fashion and products you do? Or are you asking that from your podcast or any other podcasts that are out there that are talking about it, can you get some kind of a feedback from a fan base in terms of, what do you call it? Any which way, like basically people that listen to something, are there ways to get, information about those demographics? I just want to be clear.
Yeah, I guess it's I mean, I obviously I'm playing around with a lot of different ideas with it, but it's basically trying to incorporate a travel podcast, right, that would share journeys and also promote products, right, that maybe would connect with the social media, that you could visually see the product, or maybe make the consumer go there. But no, I mean, I would be interested in also hearing like, I was just trying to do research to hear other podcasts too, to see what other people are doing, and just so you can kind of create something differentiating. The products that I do make are sustainable, you know what I mean? As far as, so I could also take the consumer through a journey of how I make them or who I collaborate with, you know what I mean? That could also be an option, because a lot of it is different global suppliers too, you know what I mean, that work with me. So there's a lot of avenues kind of that I'm just thinking about with, this is all new to me. So it's hard, but it sounds fun. And, you know, I was just like, I do like communicating with people and discussing it. So I was just like, you know, there's so many, I was trying to do stuff on Fishbowl, and I was trying to do stuff like get involved with Clubhouse and all these things, but I feel like it's just so inundated right now that, you know what I mean? Like
salesman.
to get a following going, I guess, with it or something.
Yeah, especially the time to get on Clubhouse was when Kim had got on Clubhouse right at the beginning when they first jumped on it. And then the problem is once you get a hot spot like that, you get all the snake oil salesmen and everyone who doesn't, you know, they're full of it, and they're going on there and they're giving all the wrong information in all the wrong ways. You get a couple of gems, but for the most part, I have not found many people on Clubhouse that have been, you know, like really on point. A few people, don't get me wrong, not everybody is a snake oil salesman, but a lot of them on there were just hoarding people, making things and hoarding people, and then, hey, you should pay for my services. You know what I mean? And that's an entrepreneurial thing, and I get it, but you can't, when you're snake oil salesman, you know what I mean? You're selling somebody something that you really don't know about, you shouldn't be doing that. That being said, you know, going back to your project itself, if you're you know, you're gonna put together this show, I think it's a fantastic idea. I believe that people will be very interested in it. You could really build out that niche community. But if you're really looking for feedback, you can get some, like Kim and Tom had mentioned, you can get some from the community that is listening to the show by sending them to social media in order to do that. They were absolutely correct about, and you should do that. But what I would recommend, and being in fashion, you're probably familiar with this, but I would suggest doing peer reviews. And peer reviews, are you familiar with what they are?
Is it like doing a like a
survey, peer surveys?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yes.
So basically, what you do is, you know, you might want to do them a little bit differently and do them on your own, but or you can hire a company that does that and have them come in and, you know, whatever real information you want to know, you know, you could have all your products out there, you could have them touch them, feel them, you can get that feedback from the direct demographic that you're looking to get it from. And that's the quickest and best and most you know, direct way you're going to get any of that information, because unfortunately, when you're going to, you know, you're going from your podcast or your following, which might not be tremendous, and even if it is tremendous, listeners are exactly that. They're listeners. They're not necessarily jumping through hoops to follow you on social media or to go buy your stuff or this. They listen to your show. That's it. Okay. So the fact of the matter is the only way to hit that audience and to get that feedback is to physically be out there, not physically, but, you know, with doing surveys, getting reviews back on that product. That is my suggestion for you, 200%, because podcasting will get people listening and hearing about your stuff. It's a great way to advertise it. It's a great way to put it out there. Yes, you might get people that will say, hey, I'm very interested in X, Y, and Z, by putting your own little surveys out there. But, you know, you're better on social media or on a blog or on a website. But the best way to do it is to have a company that does exactly that, or put together your own crew, you know, and you hire people and you have them come in and you could set the whole thing up and have a survey, and, you know, this way you have it all written out, you know. Do you like this? You know, what do you feel about, how do you feel about this blouse? And this, I don't know what you sell, but I'm saying, you know, this blouse, do you like it because of the way it feels, or are you more excited about it because it's sustainable and, you know, it's going to last longer, and it was, you know, this type of a product was used? That's the type of information that I think you want. Am I correct? That's what you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically it'd be trying to distribute locally first,
Mhm.
and then probably hitting a bigger channel, you know what I mean, as your numbers grow. So
Yeah.
like
Local is exactly that. That's the perfect way to do it.
so yeah, no, it's like you said, it's just getting different kinds of feedback, I think, that are valuable as far as to on product and what you're doing. But getting people excited about it, I guess, is like also
Podcast.
I see with the podcast or an entertainment value to it
Yes.
that could help keep people engaged with it.
Mhm.
As far as like that's what it is. It's like there's so much product out in the market. So how do you get people engaged today to come back or just revisit, you know what I mean? Like your website or a social
Pain in
media
the neck.
channel or something like that. So that's why I was like, and I have some pretty colorful friends. I really do. So that I'm like, that's why I'm like, oh, maybe, and the people who I've traveled with that are quite funny, you know what I mean? Like, so it's
Yeah.
like, so nobody's a dry, bone in my group of people. So
That's great.
Love
Hopefully that helps you a little bit from everything we said. And and again, like I said, if you really want to you need a hands-on for anything fashion related, you need hands-on. And if you need, if you don't mind me asking, what kind of stuff are you doing? What kind of product?
well, I work in the fashion industry. I work primarily in knitwear design, and knitting is
In which?
knitwear
Knitting.
design. So
Okay.
knitting is basically an execution of textile, where you start with the yarn. So it's actually in itself is one of the most sustainable forms of apparel manufacturing as far
Okay.
as to do. So that's why there's kind of there's more, like I feel I have more credibility to say it. And also it's been a profession that's been around for a while that people could actually, double check it and look at it and say, okay, you know what I mean? As far as there's no wastage involved. I'm selecting the materials and the suppliers and looking into the supply chain of the resources that I'm using and pairing with. So so from that perspective, that could be a conversation in itself, you know what I mean? Like as far as but sorry, I went sidetracked.
What I would also suggest you to do is while you're doing all this, while you're doing your sourcing, when you're doing things, and I'm sure you go out and I would create a vodcast as well and do, like little video clippets and snippets of where you are and what you're doing and who you're doing it with. I think, and then you're getting a different element as well. So you have your podcast, you have your vodcast, which is not necessarily the same as the podcast. And
a
you would call it,
visual,
yeah, it's a visual hit.
visual
And-
thing for you.
And you can utilize that on your social media as well. You can utilize that on the website. You can hit YouTube, yada, yada, yada. So there's a lot of different things you can do
Yeah.
with that.
Basically it's knitted accessories and also some jewelry, a little bit, like different things you could travel with that easily that you could put in your bag and wear like multiple ways, convertible products. So just it's a lot of different ideas, but it's when you're fast tracking product too, like the fashion wheel turns too of right now pretty fast of what people are interested in and like how you get it out to them. So I'm kind of I switch gears between things just to hit the trend too a little bit of what's in demand or what people are looking at.
Very good.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Hopefully we helped you a little bit. If you have any
Yes,
other questions,
thank you guys.
definitely hit us up on social and so forth. And I know that Kim and Jalen have posted our social media there. We're I'm always answering on Instagram, so feel free to hit me up and the others up, and we'll respond.
Thank you, appreciate it.
What's your next question, Jalen?
I think we have time for maybe one. I'm going to try and squeeze two. Some of the remaining questions are social media related, but I think I'm going to hold that off till Thursday's session since it is all about social media. If anyone who's still here doesn't know, sign up now for Grindhouse next event with us this Thursday, same time, for social media marketing, pretty much anything related to that. So one of my last questions for you guys is, how important is tone in a podcast as reflected in voice, focus, and or point of view? Thank you so much.
Tone is it's not everything, but it is almost everything, because if you don't sound interested, if you sound disinterested and not really into what you're doing, everybody else isn't going to be able to get into it either. Unless that's your shtick, you know what I mean? Like if you want to be Ben Stein 2.0, sure, go for it. You know what I mean? I guess somebody will find it, but somebody will like it, but you know, you got to sound interested in what you're talking about, and you got to sound like you're having a good time with what you're talking about, because one of the first things I learned in the Connecticut School of Broadcasting is shore radio and podcasting. Even though podcasting's has moved into the video format nowadays. If somebody's just listening to it in their car, just because they can't see you, they still know if you're smiling behind the microphone. And somebody that's really into it sounds a lot different than somebody who's not into it. You know, I'm honestly, you know, look, we've been doing GHR for the last 7 years, and I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, you can hear. I'll just speak for myself. You could hear when I'm on it, and you can hear when I'm not into it. You can very much tell. You know what I mean? It might not be glaring, might not be in your face, but you can definitely hear the difference in tone. It's really important. Definitely be into what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, listen, your tone is also your personality. I mean, listen, when you're first starting out, it may be a little intimidating, right? It may be very foreign to talk into a microphone and whatnot. You know, you're not used to it yet. Or you may be completely outgoing, and then all of a sudden you talk into a microphone, you're like, oh, I have nothing to say. Tone is super important. You know, like if we were all like, you know, hey guys, you know, we're gonna talk to you about just stuff, you'd be like, oh my God, like you just leave an hour ago. But also this is my personality. I'm gonna shine that way. And that's, you know, Tom's his personality, Brim's his, I'm mine. And that's why the show's been so successful. So obviously when you're starting a podcast or any brand or anything, you want your personality to shine through. So especially with podcasting, your tone sets the tone. Legitimately, it sets the tone for how people are going to listen to you throughout the entirety of your show, if they're actually going to be interested in coming back week after week, because that's your goal. Your goal is not to have someone just listen to one episode and say, oh, they were cool, and then forget about them, and then you go into oblivion. No, you want them to come back every single week. So yeah, tone is super important. You know, that's definitely a big major part of having a podcast for sure. It sets the tone with your tone.
What other questions you got, Jalen?
All right, this is the semi-last question, because I know what I'm going to ask for my last question, but before we get there, how do you engage with folks on social media and still sound authentic? I sometimes feel like I'm putting on a facade.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, it depends on what you mean by engaging. When people are talking to you on your post and you're responding, or when you're writing your post, or when you're speaking to people on their posts. I mean, that's a very vague question. I'm going to assume that you're talking about how do you engage with folks in terms of responding to the things that they say. Each thing is different. Each person who writes to you writes differently. Some write emojis, so you can write emojis back. Some people write like, yeah, so write back, heck yeah. You know what I mean? You're not sounding fake. It's real. Share the excitement. If somebody is saying to you like, you know, man, oh man, you know, you are always putting out great content. Thank you so much for doing that. Is it hard to say, you know, thank you so much. That means a lot to me. I really appreciate that. I value you. You know, it's all about valuing the people that are engaging with you, because if they're going to spend the time to go there and engage and put something on your page, you sure as hell better be going back and responding to them and going back and forth if it goes back and forth, because they're taking the time out of their schedule to do it. And the fact of the matter is that, you know, it's you need that engagement, because if you don't hit that engagement, then the algorithm does not hit you, and now you are not getting as many eyes on your post that you would like. So the more people that hit you, the more people that hit your post, the more people that engage with your post, the more people that you engage back with on that post is going to share it to then more people who are going to see your post and then potentially engage with you. So it's a vicious cycle that you have to stay up on in social media world, which, you know, some people have a knack for it, some people don't. But don't ever feel like you're being fake, because why would you sound, you know, unauthentic by thanking somebody? or unless you're cocky and you think that you deserve everything you got. No, you work for it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But like if somebody's going to say, man, that was great. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Positivity spreads positivity.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Negativity spreads negativity. Positivity spreads positivity. And if you're negative, you're going to get negativity back, or people aren't going to give a damn. If you're positive, you're going to continue to get more people and more people and more people. And they don't always, sit and respond. So you want to hit them when they are responding so that they have more of they're more prone to coming back. And they don't always see you. That's the problem, is in the algorithm now, they might love you and they might love to sit and write on your posts. But the problem is the algorithm, you're not getting as many hits, because what happens is if you have X amount of followers, it sends out to X amount of your potential followers. Now the way the algorithm works is after it's sent out, it gives it a certain amount of time that you have for people to then engage with the post. Engagements, the way it counts is likes, follows, comments, responses, and and reposts. Okay, so all of that counts as engagement. Not follows. I'm sorry, follows is a different form of engagement. So all of that counts as engagement. So the more you have right off the bat, as soon as it comes out, okay, the more of an opportunity that you're going to have more engagement, which will then allow it to the next level, and it will then send out more of your post to more of the people that follow you, as well as some people who don't follow you, which is annoying as all sin. Because at the end of the day, that's all I see in my feed, not people that I follow, but people that I don't follow. It's like, why are you showing this to me?
Yeah, it's like
anyway,
suggested.
So you have to play the algorithm the way it is. So, one thing that is very, very helpful is create a group of people that they'd be liking your stuff to begin with. You know what I mean? And they just need a little help and a little push, because they're not going to necessarily see your post when it needs to be seen, and they might not ever see your post. I saw a post from my own wife 6 days after she posted it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not good. You know what I mean? So in order to really push that algorithm without getting too much more into social media and how that works, you have to engage and sounding authentic. It's very, very easy.
Cool. I think that's great advice. All right, so my last question for you guys before we end. Well, first, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do this. I was going to say, if you could choose one, but I don't think you guys can. If you could choose your top 3 guests that you've had in the past who have been your favorite, and then if you could pick top 3 people you would like to have in the future, it could be anyone within the entertainment industry.
Is that really how you're gonna end this?
Yeah, come
how
on
am I supposed? I don't even.
What the hell?
To be honest with you, I don't even know if I could think of. I don't even know if I could think of 3 people that we've had on before. To be quite honest with you,
We've had a lot of great people on.
Jesus.
That's the problem.
That's why I thought if I said one, that would have been really unfair. It'll just be like a Sophie's choice, and then you might get, I don't know, maybe people who've listened to your show before see this, and then they'd be like, you didn't pick me as your top guest.
That's what I'm saying. And then you want to go put it on YouTube?
Yeah, first you don't give us s'mores. Now you want us to have beef with people. Like, I don't know what's going on here, Jay.
No s'mores, man. That's messed up.
3 people that we've had on that okay, in no order. These are just literally 3 people that came to mind. Okay, so like these are just 3 of the people that I very much enjoyed getting the chance to talk to. Richard Horvitz, because he's one of the coolest people that I've gotten to meet in person, gotten to hang out with, and gotten to speak to. He's great. Voices Zim, Daggett, and a bunch of cartoon characters. Charles Martinet was really cool. He's a really cool person as well. And Kel Mitchell. Kel Mitchell was great. He's very cool. I grew up watching all that. Loved Keenan and Kel. I loved all that stuff. So if literally was the first 3 names that just popped into my head, and I know that Richard, the top one, simply just because he was one of my favorite guests that we've ever had. So those are the 3.
That's too hard to choose.
No, I just
You
did
can
it.
go. You can go for the second option of
I
3
will
guests you'd
say
like to have in the future.
3 guests to like. Oh God, that's
That you would like
another
to have in the future that like you've never had on the show before. That you'd love to interview just to have.
I mean, I'll go like shoot for it. Taylor Swift. It'd be great to have Taylor Swift on. It would be amazing. Love Taylor, you know. So Taylor Swift, of course. Else to have on? We've had on a lot of people, guys. I can't even think of voice actors because we've had a bunch. We've had like Debbie Derryberry. We've had a whole bunch of people. I don't know. I can't think of people. I'm so bad right now. I can't think of people to have, but so far Taylor Swift. It'd be probably really cool to have. Well, if I could do from the past too, can we switch it up? Can we switch?
Yeah.
It?
Yeah.
It'd be really cool. I've always wanted Betty White on, but obviously that's not going to happen. But if I could reach back, I would choose Betty White.
You know, I tried to get Betty White on the show before.
Really?
Did I ever tell you that? Yeah.
No.
I didn't hear back from the agents.
That'd be a cool guest.
That would have been really cool.
I would have loved Betty White. She would have been hysterical. She would have been sweet. It would have been fantastic. So, but yeah, I'll pick those 2. I'll think of another one if I can think of one.
Bren, anyone? I don't know. Are you allowed to pick people?
Like 90% of them are my friends, so it's really effed up. They're gonna be like, "What's up? What's up with that, Brim? What's up with that?"
Well, maybe pick someone who you would want to have.
Yeah, potential guests you would
never
like
had.
Listen, three of my favorite people who have been on the show multiple times, who I absolutely adore, and I think that they gave something amazing to the audience. In no order would be DMC, Sean Schemmel, and Charles Martinet. I'm going to take, because Tom took him before, but I will take Charles as well. All 3 of them are very, very near and dear to me. They're very close friends, and I love them. So we're gonna go with those 3. And there have been so many. You guys don't understand. We've had well over 350 guests on the show in our time. And what do you call it? And these are people that I know for many years, that Kim and Tom now know, and they're very near and dear to us. So it's hard to pick and choose. So you know what I'm saying? Like all 3 of them, they've been on the show multiple times, and they support. So, I'm just going to go that way. And for people who I would like to have on the show, I would love to have Tommy Lee on the show. So we could talk about his third leg. I would love to have a conversation with Demi Lovato, who I've had a couple of run-ins with, and I'd love to do Kanye West so I could beat the snot out of him on live radio, because I don't get along with Kanye, and that's my 3. So Kanye, I put it out there again. Come at me, come at me, bro.
We would have Kanye and Taylor Swift on at the same episode. That would be horrible. We're not doing that, but I'm just saying.
And you know what's crazy?
It'd be entertainment.
Be definitely entertaining, 100%.
You know what's crazy too is that sometimes when you're doing these shows and you're doing this work, there are so many people out there that you're like, man, I think they'd be great on the show, and others you're like, I wonder how this is going to turn out, or like, oh my God, I can't believe like this person was just so eloquent and like had answers for everything. I mean, not to sit and blow up her spot, because she was awesome. Carol Baskin, probably one of the best guests we've ever had. She had answers for everything. I'm not. And don't ask me, did she kill her husband? I'm not. We're not discussing that. I'm just talking about as the guest on our show.
She was great.
She was great. She did a great job. Like Tom said before, Kel was fantastic. It's the cool thing about when we have people on 9 out of 10 or 9.5 out of 10 times, they're very laid back and casual because they know us. So they just let it flow, and it's just fun and laid back, and just like like we're having here, just a little chat, but we bring the s'mores, unlike Jalen, who's useless. You're gonna get that for the next year, by the way.
This is why I didn't make the cut of top 3 guests. So that's cool, totally fine.
No, Jalen, you see, if you were to crack, you would crack the top 10 of coolest studio edition, because the coolest thing that we have sitting in this studio that I am not just gonna take off the shelf because I'm gonna knock everything off are the pop vinyls you made of us.
Yes.
That is single-handedly the coolest thing I have ever received in my entire life doing this. Literally, I don't like looking at pictures of myself, but I like looking at the pop vinyl that you did.
Yeah.
That's so cool. It's still cool to me. Like, I still look at it all the time. It's like right there. You can't see it, but it's right there.
I think the coolest thing in the studio is me, but that's besides the point.
Not in the studio.
I'm not in the studio right now. So the coolest thing in there right now is Kim and Tom. The Magic Kim and Tom, right before you.
Magic Kim and Tom.
You could see like on this little thing, the pops.
There we go.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions for us? Anybody else have any other questions while we're here? Were there any questions from the room that we didn't answer? Because they're here actually spending the time with us. We want to make sure we get them.
Yes. Before we wrap up, what is a question you have? Or if you don't, that's okay.
Pretty sure we got everything in the chat. And just double checking.
If we got everything, then we got everything. I just want to make sure we didn't gloss over something that was asked in the chat and the people are sitting here,
Yeah, of course. No, of course. I mean, we thank you for joining, all our members joining us for the live event. Thank you so much. Thank you to all the folks who submitted questions through Eventbrite. I don't remember who asked what through Eventbrite, but if you're here, you got your question answered. Thank you. We'll be covering a couple more questions as well related to social media on Thursday's session with Grindhouse Radio. So again, join that session, sign up. There's definitely spots available. But yeah, thank you guys so much for doing this event with us. We've been happy to have you. Just the events in the past, everything with you guys, Podcasting 101, 201, entertainment is succeeding in the entertainment industry, which we do have coming up as well, if anyone has missed out the first time. But yeah, that's it for me. I owe a couple people some s'mores, and I'm trying to add it to my Amazon cart right now. So
no, you don't really owe it to us. Next time you're at the studio, you got to bring it.
You guys, I want it. No.
So what do you call it? I'm just gonna the question here that says, how do you stay motivated? You like money, right? You like money. Be motivated. You like to make money. You like to do things. You like to meet new people. You like to experience things that are cool and different that other people might not get to experience. That's how you stay motivated. Put a picture of something up in your office or in your room that that gets you excited. Put it on your screensaver on your phone. Every time you look at it, that's what motivates you. That's what gets you to the next level. You know what I mean? The way I stay motivated is I say, I want to achieve X, Y, and Z. And how am I going to do that? I got to work twice as hard to do it. I'm going to work twice as hard to do it. Because otherwise, it ain't going to do itself. And that's how you stay motivated. So have a great night, guys. Love you all. Thank you so much for hanging with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, everyone. Hopefully we'll see you all Thursday. Take care, everyone, and stay safe. Have a wonderful night.
Bye.